How's it going, guys? Aaron here. As you can see, we got a little multi-generational action going on here. But today is not about that. Today is about catching you guys up on a few things that have been happening, not only with my MacBook Pro, but with some of the software that I use on my Mac Mini server to serve the local network website that I would view, let's say, on my MacBook Pro or edit on my MacBook Pro. So first thing I want to talk about was the MacBook Pro. And the MacBook Pro has been going good so far. What I will say is the Touch ID seems a little slower than I remember it being on Sierra on the 13-inch MacBook Pro that I had earlier this year. But it's still decent. And the most unusual thing that I had encountered, not even unusual, it was unusual and it was unfortunate, was an unexpected crash of a program that is an Apple program. And it's the latest version. It was fully up to date on the fully up to date public release of macOS High Sierra, and that is Final Cut Pro 10. I think it's 10.3.4 or something to that effect. And basically, I was trying to import some footage into an event. Into a project, of course, straight into the project, from my Photos application. So I would go into the inspector through Final Cut, and it would allow me to browse through my photo library. So what I should have been able to do is just drag and drop it, but it would tell me, like, the little circle with the line through, you can't do that, and then randomly it just quit unexpectedly and then said, you want to report to Apple. So I did report it to Apple. Hopefully they'll do something about it, but that's a little disappointing because you never know when something like that's going to happen, and it just doesn't instill a lot of confidence. I'm hopeful that it won't happen a lot, but you never really do know. So second thing I wanted to talk about, the second main thing, was about the Mac Mini server. So as you probably have seen, I have a Mac Mini server set up in a spare bedroom in the house. I made two primary videos on it and a third one talking about the AMPPS like web server software that I use, which has, Apache, it has MySQL, and allows me to run PHP scripts. And so what I did, I think it was a couple weeks ago, is I had written in to Softaculous, who makes amps, and I had said, I have a UPS. I think I had mentioned I had a UPS set up, which you've seen if you've seen my part 1, the hardware video for the server. And basically, the UPS has a bit of a closed feedback loop, and it tells the computer when it's getting lower on battery, the percentage, and how much time it might have left, things like that, I believe. And so the computer can then make a judgment call based on what I program it to do as to whether or not it should shut down or how it should behave in the event of the UPS getting to a certain status level. So if it reaches 50% or 25% charge left, then the computer knows to shut down. Now, I went into, I think, more specifics of how I have it configured in the second video, which was the software setup, the OS and the configuration, things like that. So you can check that out. I can leave both video links in the description. And so there I have it set up to shut down after a certain amount of time has elapsed or left or something like that. So you can check that out. But basically the problem is that when I was running this software AMPPS, which allows me to not only serve the site on the local network, but also manage it in a more granular way that's simple to me, it always asks when you close it to confirm that you really want to quit it. And in the case of my server setup, if I were to try to shut it down in an emergency, it would leave that prompt on screen, I believe, indefinitely, and it would hang the shutdown process so that it could not complete, which is a problem because I want everything to be able to shut down safely. That's part of the reason why I wanted the UPS battery backup. So I had written into Softaculous, and they said, oh, we'll pass it on to the developers, and we're going to add it. And so that sounded like an exciting proposition, although I wanted it sooner. So what I did in the meantime was I ran this little script that I was able to double tap open up, and it would run until I decided to, I guess, shut down the computer or restart it, and it would just run my Apache server so that I could use the site. But the thing is that if I really wanted to do more granular edits to the site or backup using the Softaculous software, the AMP software and all that, I really need to run AMPs. And so I didn't want to do both at the same time. And if I ran AMPs and I left the house, let's say, the machine would be unattended. If something happened, then it would probably just hang there until all the juice in the battery would run out, and then it would just be like pulling the plug to an electronic, which is really not a good idea, especially if I have hard drives, the external hard drive mounted currently to that machine instead of ejected, which I suppose would be the case in some situations, although I try to eject them as much as possible so the disks aren't spinning when I don't need them to. But anyway, they just notified me recently that I was just notified through, using the software, I guess, that it was released. Version 3.8 was released, and in that release, the release notes, I believe, talks about that feature that I had suggested by email, that I'd really asked about it as if they had it, and then they said they would add it. So I downloaded it immediately, but unfortunately, I did not have the foresight to actually make a backup like a responsible person. So instead of making that backup, instead of keeping a copy of all my installation files, which would have been very easy considering AMPS installs it, the way it works on Mac is it's pretty much installed in one folder. It has not only your web data, but it also has the entire installation. So I could have just easily copied that to another directory. But instead, like an idiot, I did fortunately make a backup of the site and the database and all that into like a package, a tar, tarball sort of package, like a zipped package, and I saved that separate, but everything else, the configuration, everything got like pretty much destroyed. So when I went to install 3.8, I had to delete 3.7 because I was concerned when I had dragged and dropped it, it said, oh, you want to replace this, you want to replace that, and I didn't want residual files, so I pretty much deleted, I trashed that all, put in 3.8, and it was problematic. It looked like it was buggy, so it didn't close, even though, it didn't close like 1, 2, 3 if you click the red dot. It wouldn't quit without prompting you, even though the checkbox was marked, and there were features that were supposedly added that were not functional. They were like dummy features, but you weren't notified of that, I believe. So I wrote Softaculous, and I told them how disappointed I was, and I had even tried during that period to restore my zipped, whatever you'd call it, a tarball, back into AMPS, but the folder where you'd normally upload it to was hidden, and then when you tried to show it and move it in, it wouldn't actually allow you to properly restore. So I had problems. I was concerned I would have to migrate the site all over again. Oops. Glad you guys saw that on camera, right? It's embarrassing. Just almost dropped my phone on the ground. So at least I caught it. So back to what we were discussing. I was really concerned. So I wrote them. Fortunately, they said, okay, we're going to test it, we're going to fix it, whatever. So they created a new version, got rid of the old version. I downloaded it. Fortunately, it added the feature, and it looks to be implemented correctly, where you just close it or you shut down the computer and it automatically shuts down that program. It doesn't prompt you constantly. Do you want to really quit this program? You want to really quit AMPS? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I want to quit it. So in that way, it was fixed. The other dummy features I think are now grayed out, which is a much better design. And it looks like that folder that was once hidden is no longer hidden. I was able to drag in that zipped package, restore it. After I created recreated the park domain and all that. But it seems to be up and running again, so I'm satisfied with that and I'm happy. And it feels good because my issue that I had based on my particular situation was likely the cause of this feature to be added, which they approved and included. And my feedback on the initial version, which was pretty bad, actually, initial version of 3.8, was used to improve it, it looks like, and now people can actually benefit from that. So it's kind of a good feeling to know that something that mattered to me, that I took the time to provide feedback for, they listened and that they did something about it, and that can go to help a lot of people on multiple platforms. I'm sure it could probably help on Windows, Mac, Linux, because it is a multi-platform program, and it's pretty awesome. So that's pretty much it for today. I'll probably try to catch up with you guys tomorrow. maybe put out a different kind of video, something a little bit more educational or informational rather than just us catching up. But if you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you have any comments on the topics covered in this video or suggestions for new videos, leave them down below in the comments section. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please hit the red subscribe button below. And until next time, don't forget to follow your passions, do what makes you happy. This is Aaron, signing out.